mode, and you may call your meeting to order whenever you would like, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will call the November 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Community Homeless Advisory Board to order. At this time, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And why don't we have Miss Madam Burke-Bigler? Why don't you lead us in the pledge?
Okay, thank you. Beautiful flag in front of us. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with
Sorry.
liberty and justice for all. We got you. We got
Thank
you.
you. Sorry.
get all choked up over saying the pledge.
I know, it's because it's almost election day.
My goodness.
Okay.
Okay,
sorry.
Marcia, you okay? That's okay. Ed stepped in
Thanks
there.
for
We
stepping in
made
for
it
me.
through. Of course, of course. Okay, Madam Clerk, at this time, please call the roll.
Yes, Madam Chair. Jardine,
Present.
Delgado,
Here.
Lawson,
Here.
Gare,
Here.
Burke-Bigler.
Here.
Lucy is absent at this time. Madam Chair, you do have a quorum of the Community Homelessness Advisory Board.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will move into public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Madam Chair, we received no public comment in my office prior to 4 p.m. on the business day preceding this meeting, which would have been Thursday, October 30th, due to the holiday. We have no public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 4, the approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Item 5, approval of the minutes. May I get a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. We have a pretty exciting agenda here today. I want to make sure that we get through all of it. I know that Christopher has to leave a little bit early, possibly early. So what I wanted to do, if we could, maybe mix the order up a little bit. And I wanted to see how our board felt about that. Christopher, what time do you have to leave again?
11:30.
So 10:30 our time. We got an hour and a half. You know what? We might make it through. Actually, no. Would the board be okay if we went 9876?
I'd appreciate it. I do want to make sure we get through the stuff. I mean, I think we can get through all of it, but I would appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, because there's some really good updates. I want to make sure that the board gets all of the updates and not, poor Dana, I'm not intentionally pushing you to the end. But if we could flip those, that would be great. Okay, do we need a formal motion to do that, or is that's within my purview to modify?
That's within your purview as the chair. So as long as there's no obstruction and concerns with that, you can move forward, and we'll go to item 9.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have none registered.
Okay, item 9, board update and discussion on shelter sites and related funding. Arlo.
Morning, board members. Good to see you all. Arlo Stockham, for the record, acting Reno Assistant City Manager. Well, we have some pretty good updates for you today. We've been working long and hard towards the Governor's Bowl acquisition, and we are in the final stretch of that process. We've got the preliminary approvals all done, the appraisal all done. This is scheduled at the November State Transportation Board meeting for final approval, and we expect to be able to complete the transaction in November and have this along with the requisite cost share agreements on the joint meeting agenda that we're gearing up for the 3rd week of November. So it's been a long process, but I guess depending on your perspective, quick for these types of transactions, long for us under our looming deadlines. But we're excited to be nearing completion of that and then we can move forward with a larger shelter facility. So we're
So
planning.
Arlo, can you just pause for 1 second? And if everybody takes their, take off of mute and give an applause. This is a big deal.
Well, let me ask you a question though, Arlo. Do we have the purchase price yet?
The appraisal came in at 1.7 million. It's a slightly over 5-acre portion of the Governor's Bowl site. They're reserving right away for future freeway expansion. So it's 5.15 acres for $1.7 million.
Well, that's a lot better than 6 million.
It is.
Okay.
So thank you, Arlo. And part of the reason I wanted you to go first was so before any of the members had to leave that we gave this update. I think this is, obviously, it's not a completed transaction. Nothing is done until it's done. But as many of you know, that this was not a guarantee. There was lots of folks working to make this happen for our houseless community. And Arlo, you have been just such a champ on this. So I did want you to go first. This is a great Monday with great news. Again, it's not a done deal, done, but it certainly is a huge step in the direction that this board and others have been working diligently on. So thank you. Member Burkbigler.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Arlo for all the tough work he's put in on this. I know this has been a really tough situation. I am really glad to hear that the price is as low as it is. And I'm looking forward to, further steps. How long it's going to take us to build and get it together, and costs split up amongst the 3 entities, and how we're going to manage all of that. So thank you, Arlo, so much for everything you've done on this.
Well, thank you. I'm just the one here on Zoom. A lot of people were working behind the scenes to make that happen. So yes, we'll have that on your joint meeting agenda later this month for the cost share agreements and the formal approval of the purchase agreements. The other update I had kind of crosses over into Kate Thomas's agenda item. We've been discussing overflow needs and scrambling a little bit as winter approached to secure an overflow shelter. I don't think we have a good site established. However, what we've been able to do is we did some research on other shelters, and long story short, we're able to construct some dividers that will allow us to increase occupancy of our existing shelter facilities and maintain social distancing in the near term prior to construction of the longer term shelter. So unless Kate had a major breakthrough here in the last few days, we're planning to go down that path of construct these dividers. Essentially, it's fireproof framing material, like little stem walls would be constructed between the beds. So we could have beds next to each other, but separated by a wall, and not quite double our occupancy, but significantly increase occupancy about 80% or so. Our plan and hope and expectation is that that will provide sufficient bed space to get us through construction of the permanent facility.
Arlo, can we back up just 1 second? Because I know, and I know I'm jumping back a little bit, but just for the record, and I know we will have a much lengthier discussion at a meeting closer to Thanksgiving when we hopefully finalize the Governor's Bowl deal. The sprung structure that we are intending to erect them on this site, how many beds with COVID restrictions, how many spaces do we anticipate that will add?
It's about 25,000 square feet of additional space, floor area. So we have about 20,000 square feet in the 4th Street tents. Those would come down and be replaced by a 46,000 square foot structure. That would get us about 460 people without the dividers. However, with the dividers, it'll be up in the 800 to 900 range, depending on the exact layout. So these dividers we're constructing are movable and relocatable to a new shelter site. So we feel pretty confident based on the numbers we've seen that that will be sufficient to accommodate the demand.
Okay, so it will, I'm sorry, you started out saying the new facility would have 25,000 square feet, but then you jumped to 45,000. I'm confused.
25,000 additional. We're going
Ah,
from,
thank you.
we have 21,000 in the 4th Street tents. We'll be tearing those down and constructing a 46,000 square foot structure, which will give us an additional 25,000 square foot of floor area. So our
we'll be
total occupancy of these shelters without the dividers, it's about 100 square foot per person, so about 460. However, with the dividers, we believe we'll be up in the 850 range.
Okay, thank you. I just know that some will ask, and frankly, I had forgotten as well how many. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any question? Member Dare.
Do we have any idea I mean, good job on finding the idea of these dividers, because that changes the whole conversation. So that's exciting to hear. But do we know the cost on those? I mean, when you say fireproof or whatever you said, that does scare me because those are gold plated almost. But what are we looking at?
The prefabricated ones were prohibitively expensive and also back ordered, 3,000 to 4,000 per bed. We got our team together and realized that an average carpenter could frame these up pretty quickly using standard construction materials. So we're doing that. We're ordering the construction materials today, and we expect to have them built here within the next couple weeks. And the total bill should be coming in under $100,000.
Thank you.
Do we know how long it'll take to construct them?
Well, they're gonna, the number I got over the weekend was 2 weeks to construct all of them. I have further meetings today to make sure we can, start installing them while we're constructing the remainders. So I'm expecting that within a week or so, we should be able to start increasing our capacity.
Okay. That's really good news. That is good news. I know we were struggling, and I know Kate will go into her presentation. I know we were leaning on NDOT to see if we could use the DMV building, and they're starting TIs on it, I think already for their use. So that is off the table. So I'm curious to know if there's, if there was any progress anywhere else. Does anybody else have any questions? And then we can probably just move into Kate's. Okay, moving on. Kate, welcome.
Good morning. Thanks, Chair Jordan and the rest of you. Good morning. As you recall, I was asked to help with the DMV building at the NAMS campus. We've got some pretty good relationships with the state from going through the Our Place project. And unfortunately, on, I think it was October 21st, we were officially informed that that building is, like you mentioned, starting tenant improvements for NDOT. We had a little bit of concern with the lines of sight in that building and so forth, although we were hoping to get a structure and not have just raw land for us to put tents on as an overflow through the winter months. So we're continuing to pursue if there is a structure. We've got some good feelers out into the community, but shifting a little bit because Arlo mentioned there's a new strategy with the walls or the dividers in the existing facility, and big applause for that. That's what we actually utilize at Our Place in the women's shelter. So it's very successful and allows us to have a little bit more increased capacity there. I know it's a lot less than we had budgeted for a short-term shelter over the winter, but that doesn't mean we'll quit looking. I'm about 80% sure that the Dieter site is off the record. Again, that's raw land, and not ideal for that, but better than nothing. So I've got some calls into some key folks. I'm going to be pushing again to see what we've got as far as warehouse space. A lot of things play into this. Proximity to services. I mean, obviously we've got some space in, say, Stead, for example, but getting folks there is challenging. I know we've transported people in the winter, but it's not ideal if we want to kind of keep people close to services and close to those nutrition locations and so forth. So I wish I had better news on the DMV, but we're continuing to push and work with Arlo and the team to see what we can do with the winter months coming forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
One of the questions I have, and there's been some out in the community that have been asking about the Livestock Event Center. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure. So the actual livestock event center itself apparently has some volleyball tournaments that are scheduled. I know last or the week before last, I was working the flu pod out there. And as you know, that's where we do our COVID testing and have the flu pods where we have hundreds of cars driving through to get flu shots, but that's outside. And during that, there were probably 600 or 800 cowboys there doing socially distanced roping and things like that in the center. So looking at whether the exhibit hall is an option is something that we started pursuing late last week, just to see if there's any opportunity there. I'll keep you guys posted if I find anything out, but the actual livestock event center is off the table. So unfortunately, with the events that are programmed in there.
And the Chairwoman, I think the exhibit center is scheduled to be torn down too, because it's not safe inside of there.
Yeah, that's the armory. So there's the
exhibit center too.
okay. I don't know the timing on that
Ed,
one.
actually, that's already been torn down, Ed. Everything that's been torn down on the site has been torn down. So that's the armory and the exhibit hall. I think what Kate's referring to is the Junior Livestock Arena, which is also known as the Junior Livestock Arena or exhibit hall.
Okay.
All the halls that are still standing and erected on the site are in current use. Everything that's been slated to be torn down has been torn down. And Ed and I have been, or the mayor and I have been working on this. Obviously, we would like livestock to be a function.
You're kind of cutting in and out, Bob. Commissioner Lucy.
For it just right now with RCVA plan.
Commissioner Lucy, you're really chopping in and out. And we may have just lost him.
Chairwoman, I think the Mayor Hillary is the chair of the RSCVA, and she would be that probably could help you out as far as availability on the.
Okay.
On the
How many square feet is the one building, Kate, that you kind of referred to that might be an option? And I'm just doing, worst case scenarios. It sounds like we're heading down a good path with the dividers, which I'm very encouraged by. But I'm planning the just in cases, because just in case.
Yeah. I don't know the exact square footage, but having been in it several times previously, I think it could certainly accommodate the number of folks that we were anticipating for overflow, which I believe was about 200. So socially distanced, I mean, they do big hot tub shows. And I mean, if you've ever been in there, it's pretty spacious, and that's what we would need for a location. So that was one of the reasons they were looking at it. But I'll find out the square footage and let you guys know.
Thank you. Thank you. And Commissioner Lucy, if you're back on, doesn't sound like he is. We lost him. Any other members have any questions? Kate, did you have anything else?
No, thank you. I wish I had better news on DMV. I know we were all sort of hoping for that, but the timing is what the timing is, and we'll continue to look and push down all the various paths that we've got. But I would ask, I've put out some feelers with certain developers and folks in the community, EDON and things like that. But if you guys have contacts too, the more folks we have looking for this spot, the better. I know I was supposed to do the state's location, but we're sort of pushing forward in other areas. So looking for all the help we can get on that. And thank you to the group.
And Kate, thank you for that. I know on the surface, it sounds like, the availability of a big box store or a warehouse sounds easy in theory, but I can tell you just from the work, I know the city has labored for years with these issues. Even when our overflow shelter flooded and we were in a desperate situation, and we got crickets. We just got nothing. Nobody, there's a great reluctance for a huge variety of reasons. And of course, things have only tightened since then. So we intimately know how difficult it is
Yeah.
to accomplish. While it seems simple, it is not. So I appreciate your efforts in helping us, the city of Reno and the homeless community, to secure additional space. We'll all keep our ears and eyes open for anything. So thank you for that. Okay, seeing no additional questions or comments, we will move into item 7, discussion and update on regional law enforcement on the Truckee River corridor. I don't know who's giving this presentation.
Madam Chair, I also do not know who is giving this presentation, so I will ask our attendees, if you are from staff and giving this presentation, please raise your hand in Zoom so I can see you and move you over.
I'm not seeing.
We have
I see a Cody Jones, but I don't know.
Cody is my IT support, making
So
all
he-
things
He
possible
won't be
today.
giving. He won't be
So I
giving.
have Chris Crawford and Greg Herrera. This sounds
Oh, and
right.
Neil just raised, I'm sorry, City Manager Kruth just raised his hand.
So I invited Chief Crawford to join us this morning to answer any questions about what we are doing along the river with our HOPE team. So he's certainly here to do that. Though I did not ask him to make a formal presentation. We got word the middle of last week that you wanted representatives from law enforcement in the audience. So that's what he's here for, and available to answer any questions you have.
And Madam Chair, I've received notification that Greg Herrera is actually the staff slated to do this presentation. So at this time, I will promote him to a panelist so he can give you the presentation. And then Chief Crawford, as Manager Kreutz identified, will be available to fill in blanks and answer questions from the Spark side as well.
So, Madam Clerk, who is giving this presentation?
Presentation will be from Greg Herrera from the Washoe County Sheriff's Department.
He just popped in. Okay. I apologize. I didn't see the picture. So, okay. Thank you. Greg, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Just a caveat too, I was asked to show up and provide answers to any questions that you might have, but I have a few details I can provide, much like Chief Crawford. So good morning. Just an update from our last time. We've had a number of cleanup efforts in the community, utilizing most and additional resources to provide assistance to those persons experiencing homelessness. Some of those areas, Madam Chair, include the dirt extension of Chimney and Sun Valley, Aloha Way also in Sun Valley. And then we had cleanup efforts and outreach efforts in Chickadee and Lemon Valley, along with the area of Chippewa and Raleigh Heights, where our focus has been during this time period. Also happy to say we received 3 positions, 2 deputies and 1 supervisor to support this effort that we're hoping to fill here in the future. We're targeting January in order to fill those positions. We've had ongoing issues with everybody else, like trying to fill these with attrition. But we hope to collaborate with Reno and Sparks PD in building regional mobile multidisciplinary outreach teams. We've also been participating in the Crisis Now model discussions that have been taking place in the area, and appreciate those discussions, along with our work in the detention services unit.
And Madam Chair, Sheriff Bale, and the other thing is I know both Sparks' Hope's team and Chief Crawford can speak more about that. And I know the city of Reno, your guys' team has also done some sweeps. Again, last year when I spoke about this, we wanted this regional team. Unfortunately, July, I got my bodies. Sparks filled their bodies this year. Hopefully, again, January, we can get it, and then we will collaborate as a region. But until then, kind of what Sparks did until they had their 2 officers fill those permanent slots is we've been designating patrol to kind of collaborate and attend the meetings. And then again, hopefully January, once I can fill those positions, we'll then come forth with a regional plan and see what we can do.
So, okay, thank you, Sheriff. That was going to be one of my questions. It's hard for you're way back on that table. I couldn't tell who was there, even putting my so welcome. Thank you for being here. So one of the questions I have, because I do recall getting that presentation and I was quite excited to see this collaborative effort, which as I recall and as the agenda item indicates was more river focused, river corridor focused, and correct me if anybody remembers differently. That's kind of what I recalled this regional united sort of collaboration to be. So I guess my question is, understanding that you are dedicating additional resources, Sparks has an entire team. I will be asking Reno if they are dedicating resources to the river corridor and a team for those efforts. If we have a program that has been developed or is being developed so that when the bodies are hired and trained, gets launched in the first part of 2021. And that's directed at anybody who wants to answer it.
Madam Chair, Greg Herrera again for the record. Yes, your recollection was correct. When we get these teams built, they will be more river focused. I simply mentioned those other areas to let the committee know what we've been doing. And we have a current MOU that's still going around our legal departments that focus around our regional teams. We hope to make that collaborative effort as far as the river cleanup team, one of those teams. And once we have that, we will be developing a plan to work united.
Thank you. And Arlo, is there regular meetings? I know that there was one last Friday or the Friday before. Who's kind of the bird dog on calling those meetings and making sure that when we have the bodies come first quarter of 2021, that we have a program ready to launch?
We have bi-weekly meetings of managers' office reps and law enforcement and attorneys. I think the bulk of discussions with law enforcement are occurring outside those regular meetings, and the departments are coordinating directly with each other. Is
there value in having those meetings all together versus?
I think there might be. I think we're all trying to move towards a consolidated regional effort to clean up the river corridor. And certainly anything we can do to help move that along, we're happy to do.
Okay, Mayor Lawson.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Chief Crawford, because I was out with our Hope team last week. Hope team, excuse me, no S on the end. And it's quite impressive what they're doing. And our program is really yielding success because we know each person by name. And we're not necessarily picking them out. We made contact on Wednesday with a gentleman that they had contacted more than 10 times or a dozen times. And he finally accepted services because he trusts the guy so much. So there's a rapport that has to be built there, and there's a whole program around it. And Chief, I'm going to turn that to you because I know you're instrumental in making this work. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and the board. Yeah, I'll just hit on it really quick. We have been out for about 3 months solid with 2 officers and a dedicated sergeant. And they're working very closely with the nonprofits and the other groups. And I think what we've really done is establish a good start to it so that we can bring in our regional partners. I know we've had those discussions about what's working. So we're kind of the tentative ones. We haven't moved any camps in over a month. I mean, it's truly focused on getting services for these folks. And as the mayor said, we're getting to the point where people feel some trust in our officers and those riding with us, the other groups. So we're truly getting those services. To speak to what the county's talking about, so the board is aware, is yes, there's a focus on the river, and as that focus increases, people will leave the river and move into the 2 cities and into the county. So we're seeing that in our city, and we'll see that in other cities as well. So if you got any other questions, I don't want to hit it too much, but I'm here for whatever thoughts you have.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that very much. And Christopher, I'll go to you in just 1 second. Do we have a representative from Reno Police on?
Madam Chair, it does not appear that we have anyone from RPD. I think that they are attempting to get on to be able to answer questions, but they're not available at this minute.
Okay, if we could keep trying to get them on, because I do have, it sounds to me like we've got three folks coming on from the county and 3 folks coming on from Sparks dedicated to this, as I understand it, to this River United effort. I don't know. We probably need to come up with a different terminology. I don't know what we're calling it. And I just wanted to hear from the city of Reno what dedicated resources we have. So I can hold on that. Christopher, you got a question?
Yeah, I do want to thank Sheriff Balaam and staff for stepping up, and even this last year, I know it's not everything that everyone talked about, but we're excited to see you guys as you put effort towards it. And Chief Crawford, we are actually so pleased of seeing things move. I just want to speak into what the goal was when we talked about this in the beginning. And I know this is kind of what's on there, but I want to just continue to say it out loud, is that we really, not just that we agree and we're working together kind of, but we really take that river area and make it to where there's no boundary there anymore, that we don't have people moving from one side of a sign to the next just because you walked into Reno or Sparks, and whoever is doing something more and less, it changes. I think relationship needs to cross those boundaries. And so we really need to kind of create the zone. I know we've said this over and over, but I think that's the real goal. And then coming to some common approaches that we're all doing similar. And I know that our Hope team, I think, is a great example, but at the same time, we want to be collaborative in nature and make sure we're working together. So that's the hope that we really have, is that we can work together, but really that somehow we take the boundaries that we have called Reno, Sparks County, and along the river, that goes away, because we just have to work together. Thank you.
And to echo what Councilman Dare said, and Chief Crawford can speak to this as well, and I know if Reno gets on, they can. In our other regional teams, and again, that's how we modeled this. If you remember last year when I proposed this, we realigned our regional teams, and that's exactly what those teams are doing right now. Our narcotics team, our crime suppression team, our heat team, all of those regional teams, there is no boundary. All 3 agencies have come together, and no matter where they are, those teams are moving to those areas. So I can guarantee, again, once we get we're kind of behind, and I apologize staffing wise, but once we get on board, it kind of talking with the chiefs, and we got to bring Crawford up, but he's been in those conversations before he became chief, of modeling after those regional teams so that they go out within the entire Washoe County. There are no boundaries, and we assist in that matter. So you're absolutely right, Councilor.
Yes, thank you very much. And Mayor Lawson was right on point too. And that's why I was kind of keying in on the how many bodies and when the training will begin, because the relationships with the house's population and the trust that's built really is critical. We know that 5 times they'll tell you no, but if you're there and they trust you the 6th time when they say yes, and you're ready and everybody's on the same page and has similar understandings of what the program is, that's just so incredibly important. And having consistency. We know that when we've had some of the Reno police officers that know the population, we were having great success. And when that individual retired, things kind of went sideways. And we know it was because of the relationships and the effect that they were having with that population. So Mayor Lawson, and can you take over? I've got an alarm going off in my house, so I'll be right back.
Sure. So the other thing I wanted to point out too is this is not just along the river that we're doing this. As a matter of fact, most of the contacts that were made were outside of the river corridor that I went on last Wednesday. So it's just, to me, it's going to be a community type deal. It's not going to be just along the river, but it is pretty amazing to see those folks and the difference in trust. Just another anecdotal story is there's a guy in downtown Sparks. He's been down there for weeks. Him and his dog, nice guy, nice dog, but he hasn't been able to get into the services, and they're anticipating him to have shelter here in sometime this week. So there's great success. We're not pushing them out. We're not moving them. It's strictly a service contact. Now, there's some people are averse to having contact that are in the homeless population. They extricate themselves from the situation. We did see that example also, but for the most part, we're just going and meeting them where they are and talking to them and offering services. And we have the service providers with us at the same time. And it was quite impressive. And I'm really looking forward to this rolling out to the entire community, because I think we're showing in Sparks that we're having great success. And your alarm is off now.
It is. I think the time change caused an alarm to go off, so all is well. Madam Clerk, did we get anybody from RPD?
Madam Chair, it looks like they are not able to join us yet. I know that we have multiple staff members trying to find a point person to be able to jump on. And so I would offer, if you would like, we can move to item 6, keeping this item open, and we can circle back once we have somebody from RPD available.
Yes, please. Thank you. Any other members have any questions at this time? And we will jump back to this when an RPD representative comes on. Okay, seeing none, we will move to item 6. Built for Zero. Great PowerPoint attachment, by the way.
Madam Chair, at this time, we are promoting Dana Searcy over to be able to give her PowerPoint, and we will ask Chief Crawford if you can stay on, and we will circle back to your item. Additionally, Madam Chair, it should be noted for the record, we did not receive public comment for this item. However, I would like to note a correction for opening public comment. We received general public comment from Lisa Lee encouraging this body to attend the Council on Homelessness to Housing meetings. That has been submitted to the body and is part of the record. At this time, Dana Searcy from Washoe County has shared her screen and will begin her presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me again. For the record, Dana Searcy, Washoe County Special Projects Manager. I'd like to just actually address the last item a little bit. I think that we have quite a bit of maybe some carryover and some crossover as we have started to define these first 2 initial areas of focus, the Outreach, Coverage, and Coordination Committee. Those guys are doing amazing work. We have quite a bit of representation from law enforcement. That meeting is an every other week meeting that includes all of our outreach caseworker staff across the region, as well as representatives from the RPD, Sparks PD, Sparks Hope team just joined us. We're extremely excited about that. The Reno Clean and Safe team has added staff to that meeting, the MOST team from Washoe County, and also the Karma Box Project. And again, it's right in alignment with all of the work that we're doing with Built for Zero, which is very similar to the Sparks Hope team, very much about knowing individuals by name, building that trust so that people will accept help. And you never know when it's going to happen, but when people are ready, and you've got somebody there in front of them that knows them, it's a little easier for people to accept that help. So we have made tremendous amount of progress. There are stories coming in all over the place from this team. Similar very much to the Hope team. We've had those wonderful success stories, as well as a lot of the work that Grant Denton is doing. I know many of you have gone out with him on those tasks as well. So really exciting, and I will reach out to each of these groups, RPD, Sparks PD, and also our Sheriff's Office, to see if we can expand those meetings just a little bit, and if that would be a good opportunity to host everybody in one room talking about the same topic at the same time. It might be a good opportunity to not have another meeting, but also meet everybody's needs. Also, work that we have done in the last I believe it's been 2 months now since we have seen you. We've continued our work on our data systems. We now have 3 months of data reporting. We're going to share that with you today. Good Grid data has been included. That API tech process has been a little bit bumpy, but we're getting there. You will see, we'll share those numbers. Also our matrix update, the regional efforts to address homelessness, really the look at where's all the work that's happening, who's doing it, what's moving forward. We've updated that, so we'll share that with you also today. And then we attended last week, our core team attended the Built for Zero fall work session. And this was virtual for the first time, but we'll share a little bit of that update with you as well. The Truckee River Fund grant, this collaborative project with the Karma Box Project, Built for Zero, and Washoe County has officially begun. Again, this project has two main areas of work. The first is really that initial cleanup work that we're going to see where trash is going to be removed. And we're really working through promoting self-respect and responsibility through the River Stewards program in an effort to clean up the river corridor. This is also complemented by that longer term focus to improve our corridor and our community through the Built for Zero work by really, again, appreciating each individual, knowing them by name, building that trust and relationship, and then ultimately through our coordination outreach work, getting them housed off of the river. I know many of you have personally, like I said, seen this phenomenal work that's being done by Grant Denton. We're also seeing that with the MOST team, all this work, the MOST team and the HOPE team, all this work is really coming together and we're starting to see that movement. I'm also pleased to share that the City of Reno will be joining in and sharing to increase the effort. I have been updated by Arlo and Cynthia that they are working to expand the River Stewards program with Grant Denton by an additional 4 river stewards. That will have a tremendous impact. So we will keep you posted to what that work looks like. This is our first look at our data. The September data represents, again, what we are calling a more complete understanding as our by name list continues to grow. You can see that there is quite a number jump this month, and we just want to caution again that this is still in beta phase. It is not perfect data. As we continue to work to centralize all this data, this month we were able, like we said, to build in Good Grid, and then also our HMIS data is included. Our actively homeless count does include anyone who has actively been enrolled in a program or service in the last 90 days. So that it's a pretty good look at who in our community is receiving services. We're still missing anyone who is accessing services that does not use Good Grid or HMIS as their tracking system. And we are also missing any of the unsheltered population that truly does not receive any services. As our data team works to bring the data that's inside of our systems together, and that outreach coordination team is working to ensure that no one's left behind and their information is included as well, this number moves more towards that quality data, that more clear understanding of what's happening in our community. And truly, we would like to just caution that as that data comes together, we're going to see this number increase. And it doesn't mean that it's actually increasing, just means that it's becoming more clear. And then once again, when we meet that perfect data, that quality data, and we can be confident that this truly is the number of individuals that are experiencing homelessness in our community, then we'll start to see that number go down as all these teams continue to have the success that they're having.
One question real quick, Ms. Searcy.
Sure.
Does this data dynamic in the sense that as people are helped, they're removed off of here as well each month?
Yes. Yes, and part of it, you know, in full disclosure, again, this is very much not perfect yet. One of the pieces of work is, you know, 1,800 names. That's a lot of names to keep track of for the small teams that we have right now. And so it's divvying up the work, making sure that people are responsible for their own programs. You know, are you closing, if a program, one thing that we found is that sometimes programs end. And if somebody doesn't go into these databases and cleans up that data and marks that the program has ended and closes it out, those names remain in the database as active. So we've got a lot of ins and outs that we're working towards. One thing that you will all see with us, along with us, as we work towards that more perfect data number. So you're seeing this number here. We went from 1399 to 1778. Pretty big jump, and I'm just going to skip ahead here. You can see our September inflow and outflow numbers are here. This indicates that we went up by 297 and then we were reduced by 51. So that number does not quite represent our initial increase that we looked at, which is over 300. So as we move towards more perfect data, we will see those inflow and outflow numbers line up more exactly with what we're seeing, if that makes sense. And that's really what Built for Zero is helping us work through our data to get there. And then this slide, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you go back one slide?
Sure.
So we've known the number was jumping fairly substantially, particularly during COVID. So explain to me again, this blue number in the middle, the 1126.
Sure. So what you are seeing there, the blue is their non-veteran, non-chronic. These are single adults without children that don't fall into the veteran or the chronic category. Veterans and chronic, what they say is a chronic homeless individual means that they've been experiencing homelessness for a longer time. And I apologize, I do not have that exact definition, but those two groups are removed from the larger group because they are kind of a special category that are tracked. When we joined with Built for Zero, those are the two, chronic and veteran, that they recommend you start with in our efforts to reduce homelessness. And that's truly because there are so many different resources out there to help in those two groups. We decided as a community that we wanted to track everything, and wherever our focus is, we're pretty big and we've got a lot of groups. So this non-vet, non-chronic adults without children is what you're seeing in the blue. And that truly is our largest group of individuals experiencing homelessness. For this number, we also dug in, and we're going to bring this back to you in our coming months as we clean up this data a little bit. We'd like to pull some demographics, some women and men, that kind of thing, to be able to share. But we recently pulled this just to look at what are we looking at for housing needs right now. And there was, I think, 256 out of this 1126 were women. So about 20%, I'm told that is pretty consistent with national trends, but we do want to look at it. Another thing that we want to bring back to you as soon as we have the data, and I apologize that we're skipping all over here, but I just want to let you know that we are working on it. Our work for the inventory of beds available has begun. That will start next week. We will start doing interviews. So hopefully over the next month or two, we'll be able to bring that back. And we want to split this out to show, of 1,700 individuals, how many are currently housed in a program, how many are currently housed in emergency sheltering, and how many are unsheltered. And that'll give us a better idea of if we're improving as a community as far as making sure that everyone has some shelter over their heads.
So Dana, do we also ask with this large segment in the middle? We always talking about which groups in which we could have the biggest impact on. Of course, the transitional age, the youth is of course a focus, but this larger group, will we also get some demographic information of residency, for lack of a better term, meaning how long they have been here, or are they coming? This is a question I get from the community with some regularity, which data has shown us in the past that it's not true that the majority of folks are coming from somewhere else, that they have been here for a period of time. And I'm not sure what we use. I can't recall what that, you're considered that you're from Reno if you've been here for, I think it was 2 years or something. Is that, will we get data from that group in particular, and we're going to be drilling down on the housing component, the COVID component, the wage component, those sorts of things. Will we be getting that data?
I honestly don't know if that exists or not. Part of this is definitely exploratory, and we are going to build this to include the information that helps us. So I've written that down. I will definitely look into it. I believe that our system does. I'm just getting some text messages with updates, but it's not the answer to that question. So we'll look into it. And one thing that, like I said, is this is developing, and that's why the outreach work is so closely aligned with the data work, is because we're not just simply keeping a tally of people, but what information helps us really make sure that we can address individual needs, we can see trends, things like what you're bringing up. That's an easy thing to start looking at. So like I said, I will look into it, and we'll let you know, and we'll plan to be able to answer that question.
Great, thank you.
Just real quick, one clarification on the bottom, September 1 to October 22nd. Was that just so we could have up to date? That's the best up to date we have. So putting those together because we didn't have a full month. Am I accurate?
So actually we pulled again late, and that's why I put it on here. When we pulled the data for October, the initial data pull, which included both HMIS and the Good Grid systems, we had quite a bit of duplicates, and it tweaked some of our veteran numbers a little bit. So we wanted to re-pull once some of those technical oddities were worked out. We wanted to make sure we had good data. And so we went back in, and there's no duplicates anymore, and everything's been cleaned up. So it is, while it is a big jump, it is a more significant. We're looking at about 7 weeks here. We just pulled again late last night the numbers for October. They are about 50 higher I only looked at this blue group. The largest group went up by about 50 since October 22nd. So again, does that mean that we've already increased in the last week by 50 individuals who are now homeless and they weren't, on October 22nd? No, that's not what it's saying. We really do need to dig in and see what that means. So we'll bring back another set of numbers next month.
So do you think, in just projecting, so would we say, give us a couple months so that we can keep looking at this, and then we should be able to be starting to use month-to-month numbers to be able to see where we're at, because we're getting people on board. Now, I'd say this really loud to people. If you're listening, please get on board, because it does not help us to not know the right numbers. And I know that in the past we had this problem. It doesn't seem like we're having it as much now, but we really do need, if you are working with this population, people, to help them best means that you're part of what we're doing, because then we can know. So does that all sound accurate?
Absolutely. Really, this, as simple as it seems, we added Good Grid, which is our place, right? So we expected that maybe the number would have gone up by about 200, went up by almost 400. That's very alarming. So where are those other individuals? We don't think that it grew. We don't think the overall number grew that much. Maybe it's attributed to the work of the Sparks Hope team and the Karma Box Project, who are now out there doing outreach? Are they adding more individuals into our system? And then that results in us just, again, having that clearer picture, not actually the number going up. So yes, you're completely accurate. Really, this is about, let's get as much data in a centralized place as possible, so that these numbers are a tool for us, and we can watch month to month what's actually happening in our community.
But Dana, in looking at these numbers, just if I'm the public looking at these numbers, I can draw from this, and I understand that data is only as good as the information provided, and we're getting more information every day, which makes the number, increase.
Mm-hmm.
We have had our homeless numbers increase by over 400 in 3 months.
I would say that's not accurate.
Okay.
Because I would caution against that. Have they gone up? Yes, I think that we can all say that they've gone up. We're feeling it, we're seeing it, and those who are out there doing outreach work are living it every day. But what we are seeing is that in the beginning here, we're trying to bring data together. And so we're seeing a more accurate picture of the people who have been experiencing homelessness in our community. And we just didn't know that they were out there. That's, I think, what we could say about this number.
To Christopher's point, over the next few months, we will get a more, I would imagine, a more reliable figure.
Yes.
The data is a good thing. Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that, because looking at this graph, you would draw a very scary conclusion, and it's not always the case. So, okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So we are starting our inventory work next week. As I mentioned, we're going to sit with all of the service providers in our community. Each one, we're going to talk to them about how many beds they have available, who's in those beds, you know, are they dedicated to homeless or not? And we're also going to talk to them about how they're tracking their data. Are they using HMIS or GoodGrid, or are there other systems? We know there are 2 or 3 other pretty large systems out there. How can we work together to bring it all into one section? So hopefully, as you've all said, over the next couple months, we can get more buy-in. We can see better results, and through those small wins, then more people are convinced to support us and also help contribute to the data. So yes, it's not perfect. Hopefully we will get to a point where we can say we're pretty close, and then it will be a great tool for us to watch over the months what happens.
Thank you very much. Dana, were you done? Oh, no, you weren't done.
I'll move quickly. This graph is just another look. It breaks down the different categories. You can see, you know, transitional youth at the very bottom there is not increasing anywhere near as much as that larger group of our single adults without children. And this is the inflow and outflow as we discussed.
One more quick question.
Sure.
Any hopes in this to have any form of projection? I mean, one of our biggest concerns, I know for every one of us who get to serve on these kind of boards, is the evictions that are possibly coming. What we're worried about is, and I know we're working on one data and maybe it's overwhelming to think about what might come, but I do think that that kind of data somehow polling some of our concern of possibilities could be a wise idea. And maybe even if it's not there now, because I know you really are focusing on this, but that might be an added wisdom, because I know that it's probably one of the things that keep me up at night a little bit, is thinking about what we are creating by trying to help with COVID. What other health crises are we creating, and how we can deal with that? And I believe we are doing that. I believe we're going to have people hurting. And so anyway, that'd be something I think could be wise.
So our solutions matrix, again, back in August, we presented this to you, and it was really meant to serve as a centralized place as a summary of the work that's happening. What are the ideas that we're evaluating, who's working on each item, really just a tool for us to have as a holding place of all the work. This is the second version that's been released of this document, which includes updates and new items based on all the feedback that we received. Notably, we've added the River Stewards Project, the Behavioral Health Initiative, Crisis Now, and then also emergency shelter for individuals with pets. We know that this has initially been addressed at our place, and we continue to hear through our outreach teams that it is an ongoing concern to get unsheltered individuals housed. So we've added that as something to be looking at. And again, I know that you can't read this. That document has been attached, and you have it, and you can absorb it, and always let me know if we're missing something, or if you'd like to see updates or something change. So again, this is just meant to be a tool for all of us. And then our fall work session, finally, we joined for the first time. This was held virtually, but we were able to go. Built for Zero offers twice a year a formal workshop that allows all the different communities to come together to learn a little bit, to share some wins, some losses, and some lessons learned. And for us as our core team to really just refocus on what the next several months look for us. So during that work, we were asked to do some brainstorm activities, and I just wanted to share these commitments with you. This is where we ended up for our team on what we would like. It's mostly a guide, I would say, to our work over the next several months. The racial equity piece is one of the buckets that's been added. Obviously, it's a very large, important topic in our country right now. We as a team really maintain that it's kind of the next step. We're not there yet, but similar to the other discussions we've had today even, we really do need to start planning what does that data look like? How do we measure whether or not there is racial equity in our community? So we are starting to drop the seeds and the plans for that. And then also our work to reaching functional zero. This actually says we commit to change the narrative in our community around people experiencing homelessness. Being homeless is not something that happens to people, but is something that happens to people, is not who they are. And to align our community efforts to address homelessness as we work towards a common goal. And this work really is about bringing all of these teams and meetings that are happening together to see, let's streamline the meetings and spend more time working, but the more people we can get in the room to all be on the same page, then the better. And then performing improvement work with a team. We commit to celebrate our successes and progress in our efforts to address homelessness and to expand those who are included in the team to ensure that everyone has a voice. And so that leads into expanding our team. We have added Grant Denton. He's definitely someone as a peer who can bring a lot to the table. He's doing great work, you all know that. So he's now a member of the actual core team, which again has representatives from Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and the VA. We've added Grant. Cynthia from the city of Reno has joined our outreach team, again, to bring the Reno Clean and Safe team, her voice to that. They're there providing updates and working closely with the outreach team. And then I have it on my list for the last week to reach out to the Sparks Hope team to get them involved. They have been involved in our outreach calls, but we'd like to formally ask them to join the core team. So that is coming also. And then really the next big step for us is a coaching transition. We've made it through our true initial foundation work, and we're to the point where we will start to join other communities, and that's how we will work. We'll meet twice a month with I believe 4 other communities for the next 6 months to work through these concerns. How do we make that data more perfect and more quality so that we can use it as a tool? How do we structure outreach services between law enforcement and caseworkers to make sure that we're as effective as we can be? All of this is what's next for us. And then our next steps, as usual, as we continue, we're going to continue to work on that data. We've mentioned our community inventory is coming. The outreach coverage and coordination is a huge piece, and it is starting to take hold. So that's really exciting to watch. And then that community dashboard, those are those numbers, that data that you're seeing that will continue. We will show you. Another thing to be excited, to me, it's exciting because I love data, but once we can establish, here's our baseline, Built for Zero has some tools and how we can actually see, based on percentages and trend lines, when a shift has happened. When have we actually made enough of a change for enough months in a row that says we have actually had a measurable impact in reducing the number of people experiencing homelessness. So we'll be able to bring you a lot more charts that you'll be able to see and hold on to once this data is closer to quality data, as they say. And then lastly, that upcoming presentation at the joint meeting, we're planning to bring Grant Denton to you. He'd like to share a lot of the work that he's doing and his methodology in all of that. And then also it's time for us to re-enroll with Built for Zero. There is no longer a $10,000 fee each year. They have had enough funding from their corporate sponsors that they don't need to do that. But there are some commitments and that kind of thing that we're going to be asked to commit to. So we'll bring that forward at the joint meeting, and we'll make sure you all have drafts of that ahead of time. And as always, thank you very much for having me. We're always happy to share what we have, and we're here to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Dana. That was a great presentation. Is there anybody off the top of your head when it comes to groups, individuals, experts, entities that you wish were participating, but to date have chosen not to, or just haven't responded?
No, honestly, I would share that a lot of the first couple months was us just coming to update everybody. Even in these outreach meetings for a while, it was just, here's the update of what's happening and what's coming next. And that's just about all we have. But we can see it's taking hold, and people are jumping on, and they've got exciting stories to share, and they've got some wins that they would like to be able to replicate and share with their everybody. I guess I would say is starting to feel the momentum moving forward, and it's really neat to be in these meetings and see that start to happen. So I believe we've shared with you, there is that member list on the website. There are over 90 different people from 35 different organizations involved. So I think everybody's at the table, and really our next step is, how do we put that together in a way that supports each of them having their voice, being able to talk in a group where, one thing that we were missing from the outreach group was the law enforcement, and now they're there and it's working. And so those are the pieces that as they start to click, we're able to make progress.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you very much. Commissioner Burke-Bigler, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I had the same question you had, and was just going to ask that, are there other groups? Is there something this committee can do to enhance the program you're putting together? And I also want to tell you, Dana, I frankly, very honestly, was somewhat skeptical of this whole process of addressing the homeless. And I am pleasantly surprised. And I want to credit you, Dana, because I know you your heart is in this, and you're really doing great work and getting everybody together. So I'm so excited about this program now, and I really want to see if there's some way we can broaden and assist you in other ways. So are there other things this committee can do for you as you continue to move through this process?
Thank you very much for the kind words. There are so many people working hard to keep this happening. And I will share one of the comments in the very beginning was, let's do everything that we can to make sure that this isn't just another exercise that we did one summer a long time ago, right? That you can see it, and it's a ton of work. And this takes great teams like the Sparks Hope team, like the Karma Box Project, out there doing really good work, and then taking the time to share those wins and to bring back that knowledge, and to have, let us document and statisticize everything that's there, so that we can show, hey, look, they tried this and it worked. And we watch the numbers go down because of the work that they're doing. And now we can go out and find funding and more staff and that kind of support to continue the work and make the numbers move further into the right direction. So that, I really think the best thing that you guys can do is to be there, to know that what helps this group be more successful is to be involved in all things homelessness, and really that core of the data, and where's all the moving pieces, who's involved. This team is really positioned to be the voice at the table that, when we need the advocacy groups, that's who we're bringing forward. When we need the law enforcement, that's the team that we're putting forward. That's really the idea of Built for Zero. Right now, you're just seeing all the data, but really the idea is that there is a core team that is all working together to address all the topics that fall underneath the homeless world, and we're able to do it in an efficient way because everybody knows where everybody else is and what they're doing. So we're just here as a resource, and I think the more that we can feed into it, the more data, the more staff, the more topics, quite frankly, the stronger it becomes.
Thanks, Dana. You know, Madam Chair, just one more thing. I think it's really interesting and very important that the numbers went up, because we found there were people who were homeless who, you know, we as a team, we as a community didn't know about. I know as through this election cycle, I have had a number of people come to me and say, but what have you done about the homeless in this area and that area? And some of those I was, you know, unaware of. Obviously the river corridor, we understand that. The downtown Reno area, we understand. But some of the areas where homeless are camping in Sun Valley, up on the sides of the hills and places like that. I mean, I think those are areas that we were unaware of. And it looks like through the data collection, which is so key to this whole overall issue, we're getting a handle on where all of those people are. And I'm really actually very excited about that we might be able to address this overall issue because we've got such good data now. So thank you again, Dana, for everything you've done and your whole team.
So, and I completely agree with that. So Dana, one of my questions is, obviously one of the groups that you work with is the ambassadors, correct? The Downtown Reno Partnership and the ambassadors.
You know, I think that is a really good, that's a group that we could engage more. I know I think there was a retreat in August. There was some discussion there. They have a really large database that has quite a bit of information in it. It's a different group than obviously what HMIS and Good Grid is capturing. So we do have that on our list to reach out to Alex and to his team to find out how we can connect with them and get their voice at the table also.
Please do. They're boots on the ground that are intimately involved with our houseless population. And now they've got 2, social workers embedded with them. When we talk about gaining trust, gaining information, gaining insights from the population itself as to what the needs are, what they're experiencing, and how we may be able to assist, they are the direct conduit for sure. Grant, the Hope team, all of those. So I would just encourage that definitely we engage more intimately with the ambassadors and the Downtown Reno Partnership, because they've been walking the walk and doing the work for a couple of years now, and they can tell you what's happening, what they're experiencing, and how they can be of assistance. The other is I recently have been elected to the board of St. Mary's. And they have expressed a distinct interest in helping with the homeless population. As you can imagine, they, in a downtown hospital environment, they experience the homeless and they want to be part of a solution. So we need to add them to the list. And Tiffany Curry is the CEO. So I'll send you her information, but they have expressed an interest in participating, whether it's data, whether it's, however they can to help with this issue as well. So.
I think that's fantastic. One of the next branches that we want to add within the Built for Zero work is really a healthcare branch. There's so many people working on how do we make sure that people have access to their medicines and that they're taking them? How do we keep them out of emergency rooms? That kind of thing. There's a whole discussion that needs to start happening and help get organized there. And so I appreciate the contact.
Good. Thank you. Do any other members have any questions on or comments on this item? And then we're going to pop back to the river law enforcement portion. Member Dare.
Yeah, I just want to say great information and thank you. I totally get, and I think we all do, that this is a work in progress. And so great steps. And I do want to echo what Ms. Berkler said, is that however we can help. I mean, I think in the end of the day, we all want to be in this together, and wherever we stand, we can do it together. By ourselves, we find ourselves, it's not going to work. And so, and I think you're creating a platform where we can keep coming back to that. And data is crucial, but obviously we remember each of these data are people. And so all the other pieces that you're talking about, it's so much more than just data. And so thank you and great work. And I just want to applaud you.
Thank you.
Dana, you really have been a tremendous asset to this group. You really are pulling it together with data, and I know you've been out there on, I call it the Dana tour, informing people of what you're doing, but that's a huge component of understanding and information sharing and trust building within those groups that are going to help us address and kind of solve these issues. So I appreciate you very, very much. You are doing a tremendous job.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm the facilitator. That's my job, is really to bring all of these experts in their fields together so that they can work together and do what they do. So I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys being there to hear our updates and to ask questions and to guide the work. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to pop back to item 7. We're going to reopen the discussion and update on regional law enforcement. We do have members of Reno Police here with us now. The one that was going to give the presentation had a medical emergency. So thank you very much, and well wishes to the one that had a medical emergency. So we've got Ollie, excuse me. Can I call you Ollie?
You absolutely can. Can you hear me?
I can. So what we've been talking about is the river corridor collaboration between the county, the city of Reno, and Sparks. I do understand there are bi-weekly meetings with managers and law enforcement personnel to discuss this. Washoe County has indicated that they have 3 additional officers that will be, sheriffs that will be dedicated to this corridor team. Sparks has indicated the same, and they are hiring and training those now. And we wanted to hear from Reno Police as to the program and how many people we're committing to the river corridor efforts, and that we're hoping to launch it all in the first part of next year, but iron out what the program would look like in the meantime. So I gave you that because you weren't on the meeting, I don't think, to kind of get the background. So take it away.
Well, I appreciate you getting me caught up, Councilwoman. I do appreciate it. So right now, what the Reno Police Department has committed to river operations, we've got 4 outreach officers that currently work every day of the week to address the river, along with a sergeant. We've got another collateral team, our community action office officers that obviously help out to make that number 8 when we have larger operations along with another sergeant. So to answer your question, 2 sergeants, 8 police officers. And we really wanted that outreach piece on the river for every single day of the week so that we could stay caught up. You know, we were hoping to, and we've been pretty effective of it, make connections with people along the river corridor and other areas of town, some of our parks and plazas, each day of the week. And the communication piece is, again, huge with Washoe County and Sparks PD. You know, our goal is to educate and facilitate providing resources to these individuals.
Thank you very much. Assistant City Manager Arlo Stockham, you had indicated that there are bi-weekly meetings, and one of the questions that I had was to ensure come the beginning of next year that we do have a fully fleshed out understanding of the resource commitment, the program, learning from Sparks's program, which appears to be very, very effective. The county's obviously done a lot of these outreaches, as well as has Reno, but how we are coordinating, one, to stay consistent and have a program by the time the new year clicks over, but also how they're coordinating with the MOST team, the HOPE team, the ambassadors, and Grant Denton and his river stewards, because they're all kind of intertwined and they're all connected, and they all can bring different attributes to the table to help this population. So Are you the facilitator of the meetings and who's at them, Arlo?
I'm certainly there and I'm facilitating, I guess, the agenda. I think it's Chief Soto is our point
Okay.
person in coordinating with the other agencies. But we can certainly flush out that partnership a little more at our coming meetings and bring that back to the group.
Okay, so maybe, and I don't know if there's an attorney on the line that's going to tell me I'm out of order, but maybe at our December meeting, we can have a presentation on programmatically and resource-wise what it's going to look like, meaning days, hour commitments, bodies and resource commitments, so that come January, we can, plug and play, for lack of a better term, with the program, or certainly the spring. I mean, that's kind of my thinking, is how we work out the details between now and the first quarter of next year. So I just want to make sure I'm asking the right thing of the right people.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
It's Ollie Miller again. So the meeting that Mr. Stockholm sits on is our clean and safe meeting. It's a little bit different than this. I will get together with my counterparts from Sparks and Washoe County to begin to flesh out what this begins to look like in terms of a program, some of the commitments that you're looking for. And I'm sorry, I missed it. Did you say that you wanted that prepared by the December meeting for CHAP?
Well, here's what my thought is. So if we could get at our December meeting a framework, get some of the bones of what this collaboration and this program will look like, that would be great. And then at our, we even call a special meeting towards the end of December, or certainly the January meeting, is how this program works in conjunction and collaboration with the MOST team, the HOPE team, the ambassadors, and Grant Denton and his river stewards. So I understand there's work to be done on the law enforcement leadership side. So maybe we can just get an update on that in December, and then we expand it to draw in the other groups in December for a presentation in January. Does that sound good to the board?
I think we can accomplish that.
Okay. Okay, Arlo, am I hitting on all the points? Did I miss anything there? No, I got a head nod. Okay.
Madam Chair, just for ease, because I won't let the attorneys yell at you, we will just go ahead and note that we opened agenda item 10 at the same time. So therefore you are in compliance with your request for future agenda items.
Thank you very much. That's, I was waiting. So thank you very much for opening that at the same time. Okay, any members have any other questions of our law enforcement personnel that are here today? All right, seeing none, thank you everybody for the update. This is so, so important, and I appreciate your focus and your priority on this. This is a really, really important, so thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, where are we? We are down to item 10, board member announcements, aside from the one I just gave. Do any other members have any announcements, reports, updates, or future agenda items?
Madam Chair, I did just want to note for the record that Councilmember Dare did have to leave, so he is no longer on the call. So you still have a quorum at this time, but just wanted to make sure you're aware of that so we can continue to transition.
Thank you very much. The only other thing that I had as a possible agenda item at next month's meeting is Assistant City Manager Kate Thomas gave a great presentation at the Business Improvement District strategic planning session last month before. And it kind of, I think it might've been in part that spreadsheet that we saw earlier that had a lot of information on it. It was kind of hard to see on the screen, but it also included kind of the timeline and the understanding of the county's actions related to taking over a larger role as it relates to homelessness and the shelter operations and that sort of thing. I think getting an update on that would be really, really good. I got a thumbs up. Okay. All right. Do I have anything? I'm not seeing anything else. Madam Clerk, I think we are on to item 11, public comment.
We are on to closing public comment, Madam Chair. These are items that were received after 4 p.m. on the business day preceding your meeting, which would have been Thursday due to the holiday. We received public comment from Jay Colbert Clausel through his registration for this Zoom meeting. Looking forward to hearing items 8 and 9 for emergency housing due to the winter. With that, Madam Chair, we have no further public comment and you'll be moving to your adjournment motion.
Thank you, everybody. May I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion? A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody,
Aye.
thanks.